Good morning on this Memorial Day weekend here in Washington and around the country. The nation remembers those veterans who paid the ultimate price in their service. Tomorrow, the president will pay tribute at Arlington National Cemetery. We'll have live coverage here on C-SPAN television. Memorial Day, by the way, was first called Decoration Day. It began back in May 1868. That's when General John Logan called on the country to remember those veterans who died in the Civil War. We do so every Monday in late May since then, today, and this weekend around the country. Congress in recess this week. The president travels to Moore, Oklahoma. He'll meet with residents later today and inspect the damage following last week's series of tornadoes in the region. On this Sunday, May 26th, it's not only Memorial Day weekend, but also commencement season. And so today, we're going to share with you some of the remarks delivered to the class of 2013. Get your comments on the message to these graduates. As always, you can join in on the conversation. Our area code is 202-585-3880. That's our line for Democrats, and 202-585-3881 for Republicans. If you're an independent, the number to call is 202-585-3882. You can also join us on Twitter or Facebook and send us an email, journal@cspan.org. Let's share with you some of the headlines on this Sunday morning, beginning with a headline from Moore, Oklahoma. Just 1 week after the series of tornadoes, including that devastating tornado, the EF5 that killed 24 just outside of Oklahoma City. This headline from the Oklahoman: graduation ceremonies for high school students continued over the weekend. It's titled More Milestones, as a way to return some normalcy to the victims of the tornado. That's the front page story this morning from that newspaper. And from the Norman Transcript, Walking the Path of Destruction. Again, the president traveling to the region later today. During this commencement season, former Senator, now Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, delivering the commencement address at the West Point Military Academy over the weekend. He told the graduates of the military academy that sexual assault would be, quote, a profound betrayal of their oaths to the Army. Secretary Hagel challenged the class of 2013 West Point graduates to be a generation of leaders who stop internal issues like sexual assault, alcoholism, and suicide, which he said were debilitating and destructive to the strength of the Army. And at Bard College, the commencement speech by former Representative Gabby Giffords, joined by her husband. The headline from the New York Times: Giffords urges the graduates to be courageous. She did so in a speech that ran just about 2 minutes in length, but again joined by her husband, Mark Kelly, who was on hand for the ceremony as well. Well, for the next half hour, we're going to share with you just some of the commencement speeches that we've been covering for C-SPAN television and C-SPAN radio, many available on our website at cspan.org. And we're going to begin with the CEO of Twitter, Dick Costolo, as he told the graduates of the University of Michigan what to expect in the years ahead.
When Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey talks about the origins of his thinking for the product, he talks about his fascination with maps. He talks about his ultimate fascination with dispatch systems as he studied maps and the more efficient way of getting things like taxis and ambulances to where they needed to go more quickly. And when he sent out his first tweet, just setting up my Twitter, he didn't plan for President Obama to declare victory on that platform in the 2012 election. None of us at Twitter thought during the earthquake and ensuing tsunami in Fukushima, Japan, that our service would be a great alternative communication platform if the mobile networks in Japan were spotty in the aftermath. And certainly none of us even hoped, let alone considered, that our platform would be one of those used to organize protests across the Middle East in Tunisia and Iraq and Egypt during the Arab Spring. Here's the amazing thing about what I've observed when I've witnessed all those things. Not only can you not plan the impact you're going to have, you often won't recognize it even while you're having it.
The CEO of Twitter speaking to the students at the University of Michigan, one of a number of commencement speeches that we've been covering over the last couple of weeks and have been airing this weekend on C-SPAN television. We're also getting your comments on our Facebook page, and a few of you already have weighed in. Kurt says, renounce liberalism. There's also this from Nicholas Anderson, who says, be wary of getting complacent. And Larry Howell says, demand a balanced budget. Again, you can join the conversation at 202-585-3880. That's our line for Democrats, and 202-585-3881 for Republicans. If you're an independent, 202-585-3882. You can also send us an email at journal@cspan.org, or you can join us on Twitter or Facebook. There's a story, by the way, from National Journal about Lois Lerner, who's now on leave from the IRS. National Journal points out federal officials at the time of the Gilded Age created the civil service as a way to insulate government workers from the influence of politics. The Pendleton Act and the Civil Service Act of 1883 established the merit-based system, which ended the practice of awarding government jobs as political favors and led to the system that is currently in place. But in the case of the IRS scandal, the very system aimed at keeping politics out of the civil service is helping the person who admitted to targeting Tea Party groups stay on the government payroll. In fact, there is this, according to the 2012 federal government reports, fewer than 0.4% of civilian employees were fired. Managers have little incentive to go through the time-consuming process of letting federal workers go. That story available online from nationaljournal.com. Another commencement speech from the FBI director, Robert Mueller, who told the students at William & Mary about the role of government and their own service in the years ahead.
The lessons I learned as a Marine have stayed with me for more than 40 years. Value of teamwork, sacrifice, discipline, life lessons I could not have learned in quite the same way elsewhere. And when I do look back on my career, I think of having the opportunity to participate in major investigations such as Pan Am 103, work with homicide detectives shoulder to shoulder in Washington, D.C., and to be able to work with one of the finest institutions in the world for the last 11 years, the FBI. And I will say that these opportunities would have been difficult to replicate in the private sector, and thus for me I can say it has been time well spent. Since its earliest days, the College of William & Mary has emphasized service over self. Your fellow alumni have served as the nation's highest political officers, attorneys, judges, teachers, doctors, and civic and military leaders. The way in which you choose to serve does not really matter, only that you work to better your country and your community. Each of you must determine in what way you can best serve others, a way that will leave you believing that your time has been time well spent.
The FBI director to the students at William & Mary College in Virginia as he delivered the commencement address. And our question to you is, as we look at the message of the class of 2013, what these graduates will inherit, what they'll face as they move into the workforce and other service. 202 is the area code, 585-3880. That's our line for Democrats, and 202-585-3881 for Republicans. If you're an independent, 202-585-3882. And those outside the U.S., if you're watching on the BBC Parliament channel, is 202-585-3883. Elizabeth Warren is the freshman senator from Massachusetts, and she delivered these remarks to Framingham State University in Massachusetts.
And then one day, I got a phone call. It was in the mid-1990s. I've been teaching law for about 15 years. Phone rings, and it's a former congressman who's just been appointed to head up a commission to rewrite the bankruptcy laws. He wanted to be able to give some help to families who were in terrible financial trouble. He thought I could come to Washington and help him. I thought he was crazy. I had a job. I was sure about what my job was. My job was to teach classes, to do research, to write books, period. I didn't know anything about Washington politics, and frankly, I didn't want to. And then he offered me a deal. He said if I'd come up with a few good ideas that would really help families, he would figure out the politics and turn them into law. I didn't really think I could stand the politics, but he pushed and I decided to try. For me, this first trip to D.C. ended up being about fighting for families who were getting squeezed out of the middle class and taking on an army of lobbyists who were working for big banks. For me, it was about the optimism that if we work hard and work together, we can make a difference that really matters. As it turned out, I had the honor of fighting along Senator Kennedy and many others in Congress who were trying to protect families that were hanging on by their fingernails.
The comments of Senator Elizabeth Warren to Framingham State College in Massachusetts. From our Twitter page, there is this from one of our viewers. The message to the class of 2013, fight for your freedoms or you won't have any. And from our Facebook page, there is this from Alan who says, don't rush into college. Take it slowly and pay for your basics at community colleges. Figure out what you want to do before moving ahead with a major. And most importantly, don't borrow. A $25,000 loan will become $75,000 in the blink of an eye. We're sharing with you some of the speeches, the commencement addresses at the class of 2013, speeches that we have carried in their entirety, posted on our website at cspan.org. Some news this morning from Politico. Senator Bob Menendez telling a weekend interview program that we don't have 60 votes for the immigration reform bill. The story points out that Senator Menendez said this weekend that the Gang of Eight doesn't have the votes necessary to break a potential filibuster on the Senate floor, at least right now. He went on to say that that means that in the community, in your state, in every state, you should be contacting your state senators, that we want comprehensive immigration reform, that they're going to be judged on the political future based on this vote. That from New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. Walter is joining us from Baltimore. Good morning to you. The message to the class of 2013, what is it?
I'd like to just share with the graduating class that, yes, you've taken a giant step into America's future. Now, do not forget those that you have passed by on your way to classes, on your way to college as you were taking your spring breaks and everything. Please don't forget those people who really need your dedicated service. America needs the service. I didn't say volunteer service, but there are schools that need dedicated teachers, not teachers for profit, but teachers who have a sense of community, a sense of liberty and justice for all. Reject the right wing and the left wing. Pursue justice, and when you do that, you'll make a better America for all of us, including yourselves. I know those student loans are going to hurt you a little bit at the beginning, but there are chances for you to eliminate some of those charges by participating, not volunteering, but in social programs that actually are social programs, not those right-wing or left-wing ideologies, but justice for all. Thank you and congratulations.
Walter, thanks for the call from Baltimore. Jan has this on our Twitter page. Her message to the class of 2013, follow your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. This photograph, front page of the Philadelphia Inquirer, courtesy of the museum, back to the shore despite the chill, and it was a cold start to the Memorial Day weekend yesterday. Crowds enjoyed an emotional reunion at the beach and cheered on Governor Chris Christie. On Tuesday, the president will travel to the Jersey Shore and tour the region being rebuilt following Superstorm Sandy last October. And there is this story from weather.com. New Jersey rolled out some of its big guns on Friday to proclaim that the shore is back following Hurricane Sandy, using Governor Chris Christie and the cast of MTV's Jersey Shore to tell a national audience the state is ready for summer fun. In fact, they even hired Fund, the rock band whose anthem is We Are Young, captured some of the spirit following the October 29th storm that devastated much of the region, now being rebuilt. More from commencement speeches of the class of 2013, and this from Vice Presidential Republican nominee and Congressman Paul Ryan, who's the chair of the House Budget Committee, as he addressed students at the Benedictine College in Kansas.
You know, after I was elected to Congress, I was young, and I had to wrestle with many issues, both as a representative of Wisconsin and as a Catholic. And as I wrestled with my views, I kept noticing two themes in my beliefs, both of which come from Catholic social teaching: solidarity and subsidiarity. That sounds kind of intimidating, right? It's really quite simple. Solidarity is this belief that we are all in this together, so we must be good to one another. We must be generous with our love, and we must withhold it from no one. As when we write the laws of our nation, we must never lose sight of our primary purpose, the common good. Subsidiarity It's like federalism. It's the belief that every part of our country adds to the whole. But for the whole to benefit, every part must be free to do its work on its own terms. Yes, government must do some things, but it can't do everything. It shouldn't assume other people's roles, and it shouldn't tell them how to do their work. The people closest to the problem are the most likely to solve it. You know why? Because they know the community the best. We see this principle in the First Amendment.
Congressman Paul Ryan, a Republican of Wisconsin and the chair of the House Budget Committee. Our question to you, what should the message of class of 2013 be as students prepare to move on to the workforce or moving on to college if you graduated from high school or law school? There's a story, by the way, this morning, front page of the Washington Post, that the master's degree is booming in the U.S. Kevin is joining us from Marion, Massachusetts. Republican line. Good morning to you, Kevin.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. You had a clip there of Senator Warren from Massachusetts.
Right.
You know, her liberal ideology, you know, she is sincere about caring for families, but, you know, she's a little bit hypocritical. One side, she's championing families for lower cost in tuition for colleges, but she may, when she was teaching, I don't know if she's teaching anymore because she is a senator, but when she was full-time at Harvard, she was making $350,000 a year to teach one class a day, and that is just incredible. So it's just, she's hypocritical of, she's getting top salaries, these professors, where they're driving the cost of education through the roof, but yet she's over there championing families for lower tuition costs. So you can't have it. You can't have it her way, where she's getting top salaries. So a little bit of hypocrisy on her end.
Okay.
You know, but that's liberal Massachusetts for you.
Kevin, thanks for the call. From Xavier Smith on our Facebook page, this comment: don't adhere to any one political party. Only support those who support liberty and the historical interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. Some other news on this Sunday morning. We found this on the KHOU website, which is in Houston, Texas. A drug test for unemployment benefits has been approved. Workers who lose their jobs would have to clear a drug screening program in order to qualify for unemployment compensation under a proposal approved by the Texas legislature. Under the current law, employers take out insurance policies to help laid-off workers survive on weekly payments of between $62 to $440. Those who are fired for cause, including failure of an employer-sponsored drug test, do not qualify. The changes approved yesterday would require laid-off workers to fill out state questionnaires. Answers considered suspicious would lead to drug tests, and workers who fail would lose those benefits. A story available online at khou.com. Next is Virginia joining us from Washington, Pennsylvania. Democrats line, the message to the class of 2013. Virginia, good morning.
Hello, and God bless you, and I thank you for all of your wonderful, all the wonderful work you do and all the wonderful commencement services we have heard. And I have a granddaughter graduated, Claire, from Georgia, May 24th. And as I tell her and I tell everyone, we are the greatest country in the world. Believe in yourself, help others, and believe and wonderful that what we have. We live in the greatest, wonderful country. And I thank you, and God bless you.
Virginia, what did Claire graduate in? What's her degree?
Well, she is, she hasn't decided yet. So she's pursuing and going on. She's going to continue. Okay.
Virginia, thanks for the call. Let me see if I can pull up. Here's a story this morning from the Washington Post. I mentioned the headline, but this is what it looks like. Front page, master's degree booming in the U.S. Young professionals see the credential as a ticket to a higher salary. That's a piece by Nick Anderson. It's also available online at WashingtonPost.com. Alicia is joining us next from Columbia, Maryland. Good morning, Independent Line.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again. And let me send my love and blessings to all those who have served our country in the armed forces and all those who are still serving. And I will say that I've been taught this from the time I was knee high. You do all these things well. You work hard and you study and you learn and you work and you serve others on your own time. And don't lose faith. Even those who step on you, just keep getting up and keep trying hard. And thank you, Steve.
Alicia, thanks for the call. A political note from the Christian Science Monitor, already an eye on 2016, and a new poll from Quinnipiac University showing in the latest poll from Iowa, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton defeating Senator Marco Rubio 48% to 37%, of course, very early in the road to 2016. But the Christian Science Monitor story also points out that Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is certainly acting as if he's in the race. He was in New Hampshire this past week. C-SPAN's already launched its Road to the White House 2016, and you can follow our coverage online at cspan.org. Next is Nick joining us on the Republican line from California. Good morning. You're up early today. Thanks for phoning in.
Hi, thanks. My name's Nick, and I just graduated high school. My grandmother just turned 100 years old.
Oh, happy birthday to her.
Yes, and she gave me good advice. She told me to, number one, to stay strong and optimistic for the future. I'm a gay male, and I'm really hopeful that the nation has changed their views, their hatred, and all that. And secondly, she said, pay your taxes. Always pay your taxes. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, she said, obey the law. And next, she said, save your money. Now, those 3 points are very important, I think, to all of the graduates. And I thank you for having me on.
Nick, what are your plans? You're going to go to college, enter the workforce, join the military? What do you want to do?
Yes, I'm working right now, but I was in theater arts. I'm hoping to be a dancer.
Okay. And what's the secret for your grandmother to live to 100?
Well, she's Canadian, and she ate well and just has a really strong heart and soul. God bless her. I really love her.
Nick, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Representative Nancy Pelosi is a native of Baltimore, and she went back to her hometown to deliver a commencement speech to the students at Baltimore University, and we'll hear from her in just a moment. But let's share with you front page of the Washington Post. The drone decision elicit doubts. The shift to the military tried before 4 years ago as a new al-Qaeda affiliate in Yemen was proving itself a potent adversary. The Obama administration made plans to attack it with airstrikes, just as the U.S. had been doing against the terrorist network core in Pakistan. But this time, the White House decided there would be a key difference. The strikes would be carried out not by the U.S. military, not the CIA, but by the U.S. military, but not by the CIA. 2 years later, in mid-2011, the mysterious construction project began to emerge in the Saudi desert. And the story outlines again the CIA's role in the drone program. Now here is Representative Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House, Baltimore native. Her father was the former mayor of Baltimore, as she addressed the graduating class of 2013.
Right now, the doors of opportunity are closed to many in our society. We must restore confidence in our economy. This is one of our challenges, to restore confidence in our economy by creating good-paying jobs for our workers, by making it in America and reigniting the American dream. We must address this challenge that I think it's important for us to recognize, and it is the issue of income disparity. We must close this gaping hole. 40 years ago, those who measure such things determined that the average CEO in, say, the top 100 companies made about 40 times what the average worker made, about 40 times. Today, the average CEO in the same lineup of companies makes about 350 times the average worker.
The comments of Representative Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic leader in the House of Representatives, as she returned to her hometown of Baltimore, addressing the class of 2013. We're asking you this morning what the message needs to be to the graduating class as we share with you some of the commencement speeches that we have covered for the C-SPAN networks. You can give us a call. You can also join us on Twitter or Facebook, or send us an email at journal@cspan.org. Meanwhile, a former member of Congress, David Dreyer, Republican of California, has a new assignment. He is going to the Brookings Institution. CQ Roll Call reporting that he will be serving as a distinguished fellow. The statement from Strobe Talbot, who is the president of Brookings. For more than 3 decades, David Dreyer has been a leader in Congress. We look forward to drawing on his expertise across a wide range of policy areas, notably his understanding of international trade and strengthening democratic institutions at home and around the world. He was first elected back in 1980, a Republican from California and the former chair of the House Rules Committee. David Dreyer, who is now at Brookings here in Washington. Betty is joining us next from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Democrats line. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Nice to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you, Betty.
Were I able to say anything to graduating classes, it would be immerse yourself in books. Read about the history of this country. Read about how we were created. Pay attention to the adage that if you ignore history, you're doomed to repeat it. Perhaps engage yourself in some of the works of Howard Zinn, in particular, A People's History of the United States, where history is told from the vantage point of the oppressed rather than those who are the victors. You learn about history in an entire different way. Read about civil rights causes. Read about Malcolm X. Read about Martin Luther King. See how we've achieved as much as we've achieved over the years and what we still need to do. Read, hang out in bookstores, pay attention, and learn from the past.
Betty, thanks for the call. And you can check out all of our book coverage, by the way, on C-SPAN 2's Book TV programming every weekend. And this is a holiday weekend, so including tomorrow on C-SPAN 2, our coverage of all nonfiction books. This morning from the Outlook section of the Washington Post, there is this brass ceiling: why more senior female officers would curb sexual assault. It's a piece based on a retired member of the military who has penned a lengthy piece this morning inside the Washington Post. We'll share with you what she had to say, but first, the president's comments Friday at the U.S. Naval Academy, in which he addressed the issue of sexual assault in the military.
So, class of 2013, I say all this because you're about to assume the burden of leadership. As officers, you will be trusted with the most awesome of responsibilities: the lives of the men and women under your command. And when your service is complete, many of you will go on to help lead your communities, America's companies. You will lead this country. And if we want to restore the trust that the American people deserve to have in their institutions, all of us have to do our part. And those of us in leadership, myself included, have to constantly strive to remain worthy of the public trust. As you go forward in your careers, we need you to carry forth the values that you've learned at this institution, because our nation needs them now more than ever.
The president Friday at the U.S. Naval Academy addressing the graduating class of 2013. And from the Washington Post, Anu Bagwadi, who is an executive director of the Service Women's Action Network and a former Marine Corps captain, writes in the Washington Post, although more than 280,000 women have served in Iraq and Afghanistan, service women's careers remain incredibly stunted. In 5 years as a Marine officer, I never met a woman above the rank of major. In fact, only 2 women in the U.S. military have attained the rank of 4-star general. We cannot expect women to be accepted in combat roles or the culture of sexual harassment and assault to change when the military retains so few of its women in senior enlisted and officer ranks. That this morning from the Washington Post. Back to your calls. Joe is joining us from Fargo, North Dakota. Independent line, the message to the class of 2013. Good morning, Joe.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I think the message for the class of 2013 should be to uphold the Constitution of the United States and protect it to the fullest extent of the law. And the reason I say that is because the way you remove a politician from the government is to impeach him. Treason, bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors. Well, we all know high crimes have definitely been going on. And treason and bribery, in my book, are the same thing as lobbyists and special interest. It's time for America to get serious and stop being a bunch of no-minds and being paying for gasoline when everybody's broke and everybody's going broker and blaming themselves and working all they can, and families are falling apart and everything else because the petroleum industry is stealing, robbing the people's money.
Joe, thanks for the call from Fargo, North Dakota. Paul has this point on our Twitter page. His message: stay positive, focus, and know that there is nobody like yourself. You are unique, so be unique and not a follower like so many. Next is Joe joining us from Orlando, Florida. The message to the class of 2013. Good morning.
Good morning. Address your question. I'm sorry, I should have been a little more prepared, but I had no idea I was going to get through. This is my second call ever. I'm sorry for the time and history that these people have are graduating. I don't believe that their quality of education has truly prepared them for the future. From what I read and what I see from time to time on TV about the youth, the fellow before me, I think, alluded to the Constitution, their knowledge of it, their knowledge of history. Another caller said, I was an average student, but I'd probably make A's if I was graduating today. And I'm just afraid they don't have the basic values that it's going to take to survive and really be productive, right on down to the family, the commitment to the family. At my age, I was in school in the 40s and the 50s, but so I read the obituaries, see who of my friends are going on. But most of them that I read about, they've been married to the same person for all these years, and that's not true today. We know what the divorce rate is. We know what the out of wedlock is. I'm saying the morals of the country has gone down so far, and it's taken that liberal turn, T-U-R-N.
Joe, I'm going to stop you there because we're short on time, but thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. How old are you, by the way?
78.
Okay.
And but I just think that one last quick thing.
Sure.
I think if they need to, I'm a Christian, but I think they need to believe in something bigger than themselves and the country and everything. If they're going to make it, they've got to have something bigger to hang their head on to. And I hope they. Thank you so much.
Good words of advice. Joe, thanks very much for the call. Appreciate it, from Orlando, Florida. There's a story we want to bring to your attention that you may not have known about, a speech that was delivered 50 years ago on Memorial Day in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, by then Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson, 6 months before he became president following the assassination of John Kennedy. The story this morning from the New York Times, LBJ's Gettysburg Address. In American history, 1963 was a year rich in speeches, but of all the signature speeches that year, it's the one that has been all but forgotten that might have transformed the country the most. 50 years ago, on Memorial Day, Vice President Johnson giving a speech in Gettysburg that foreshadowed the profound changes that would be achieved only 13 months later and mark us still today, and that, of course, was the passage of the Civil Rights Act. The story this morning from inside the New York Times. And from Saxby Chambliss, who also delivered a speech to the class of 2013. He is a Republican senator from Georgia. Here's what he had to say.
And it's easy to feel overwhelmed with how much the world has changed just in the period of time that you have been here at UGA. Look no further than the events in Boston last month, where in a single instant, a joyous event celebrating human stamina and achievement transformed into a scene of life-changing carnage. Uncertainty and unease are two very powerful emotions. In my position as Vice Chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, I hear daily about what a scary place the world can be. And I'm privy to details that keep me awake at night on a regular basis. But I also hear how dedicated young people like you day and night, are out there working hard, piecing together valuable information, foiling plots, taking down bad guys, and preventing another Boston, another September 11, or another Oklahoma City from happening.
The message to the class of 2013, the University of Georgia, Republican Senator Saxby Chambliss of Georgia. Some other headlines on this Memorial Day weekend from the Denver Post. I can't do enough to honor them. The traveling Vietnam War memorial that is in the Denver area is the subject of this morning's front page story from the Denver Post and the Chicago Tribune. When remembering is half the battle. One Air Force copter crash that killed 5 comrades and badly injured one of the survivors. His story is this morning front page of the Chicago Tribune. And this photograph, front page of the New York Times, from Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, as Staff Sergeant Miguel Daines prepares the uniform of a Captain Aaron Blanchard, an Army pilot who was killed in Afghanistan last month. Part of the somber ceremony at Dover Air Force Base, and a reminder about those who do pay the ultimate sacrifice on this Memorial Day weekend. We have time for one more caller. Teresa is joining us from Portland, Connecticut. Independent line. Good morning.
Good morning. I loved Gabby Giffords' commencement speech at Bard University. She said, starting tomorrow, you can change the world. The nation is counting on you to create, to lead, to innovate. But today, we are celebrating you. Be bold, be courageous, be your best. A recent caller said that President Obama should be tried for treason and high crimes. He had the right charges, but the wrong president. It was Bush that led us into an unnecessary war, lied us into an unnecessary war, and left this country a mess, which our president is trying to clean up.
Okay. Teresa, thanks for the call and all of your comments. By the way, we're going to come back to this issue at 9:30 Eastern Time, another half hour, and another chance for you to weigh in on the message to the class of 2013 and more commencement speeches, including the president, and a more emotional speech to the students at Morehouse College in Atlanta last week. All of the speeches, by the way, available on our